Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, federal government arraigned Senator Issa Misau before FCT High Court over alleged falsehood against Inspector General of Police and the Police Service Commission. Alleged kidnap kingpin Chukwudumeme Onwamadike, also known as Evans, makes U-turn, pleads not guilty to charges of conspiracy and kidnapping. President Buhari and his Turkish counterpart pledged stronger bilateral relations between Nigeria and Turkey as the 8th summit set to open tomorrow. And Spain set to suspend Catalonia's autonomy as the region's leader threatens to declare independence. And on business news tonight, Shell Petroleum Development Company lifts force majeure on Nigeria's Bonny Light crude export after 1 month shut down.
On sports news, Nigeria Football Federation agrees to sign bonus deal with the Super Eagles before 2018 FIFA World Cup.
And from Abuja, some People's Democratic Party leaders moved to pick a consensus chairmanship candidate for the party ahead of its national convention in December.
We begin with the arraignment of Senator Issa Misau before the Federal High Court in Abuja on alleged charges of injurious falsehood against the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, a former Inspector General of Police and Chairman of the Police Service Commission, Michael Kiro, and the Nigerian Police. Senator Misau was arraigned by the federal government on a 5-count charge, but he pleaded not guilty to all of them and was subsequently granted bail in the sum of 5 million naira and 2 sureties. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafor, reports.
The federal government has finally arraigned Senator Issa Misau before an Abuja High Court on the 5-count charge of injurious falsehood against the Inspector General of Police, the Chairman Police Service Commission, and the Nigerian Police. But before the commencement of his trial, the lawmaker was all smiles as he exchanged pleasantries. When the charges were read to Senator Misau, he entered a not guilty plea and immediately asked the court, through his lawyer, Mr. Godwin Obla, for bail on self-recognizance. His bail application was rejected by the prosecutor, who insisted that the lawmaker ought to file a motion. But Justice Ishaq Bello thought otherwise, as he ruled that a bail application can also be made orally. He, however, did not agree to release the defendant on self-recognizance. He granted the lawmaker bail in the sum of 5 million naira and 2 sureties.
The first day of the case is just for arraignment. The charge was read and explained to the accused person, and his plea was taken. He pleaded not guilty, and bail application was moved, and eventually he was granted bail.
We applied, we asked that that bail be granted on self-recognizance. My lord felt otherwise, but in the circumstance, he made orders that we felt were also reasonable.
The government had on Monday sought the leave of the court to summon Senator Misau to defend the 5-count charge of false testimony against the Inspector General of Police, the Police Service Commission, and the Nigerian Police. But in what appeared to be a rebuke, Justice Ishaq Bello ruled that it was too early for the police to start its case with hostility when it had not followed laid-down rules of the court and the Constitution. He therefore ordered the police to properly serve the lawmaker. The case has been adjourned to the 28th of November 2017 for trial. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
In other legal matters, suspected kidnap kingpin Chukwudumeme Onwamadike, also known as Evans, has pleaded not guilty to an amended 2-count charge of conspiracy and kidnapping of one Dunu Donatus, an offence allegedly committed in February 2017. He had earlier pleaded guilty to the 2-count charge at his arraignment on August the 30th in the amended charge. The offences are said to be contrary to Sections 411 Laws of Lagos State 2015 and Section 2, Subsection 1 of the Kidnapping Prohibition Law of Lagos State. At the resumed hearing, the Director of Public Prosecution, Adebayo Shittu, told Justice Hakeem Oshodi that the amendment relates only to the punishment section for the second charge. The DPP also submitted that there's no material change in the nature of the offence, which still remains conspiracy and the kidnap of Mr. Donatus. The case has been adjourned to November the 3rd.
This is the premises of the Lagos High Court, Ikeja. It's witnessing an unusually large presence of security officials and an even larger crowd of onlookers. The first defendant, Chukwudu Onwamadike, popularly known as Evans, is arguably the most talked about suspect in recent times. Before Justice Akim Oshodi, he and 5 others are facing a 2-count charge of conspiracy and kidnapping of one Dunu Donatus. When the charges were read to the alleged mastermind, Evans, at the last sitting of the court on August 30th, he pleaded guilty. His counsel immediately went on record to say that his client had been coerced into making a guilty plea.
You could have made the plea of guilty out of duress. You could have made the plea of guilty after being brainwashed by the people you know.
At these fresh proceedings, expectations were therefore divided. Would Evans maintain his guilty plea, or would he change it? The Lagos State government has substituted the previous charges with an amended one. The only difference in the 2 charges is that the punishment section in relation to count 2 has been amended from section 271 subsection 3 of the Criminal Laws of Lagos State 2015 to section 2 subsection 1 of the Kidnapping Prohibition Law of Lagos State 2017. The Director of Public Prosecution, DPP Lagos, Adebayo Shittu, told the court that this amendment was done pursuant to section 155 subsection 1 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Law of Lagos 2015. Now, the DPP Lagos has declined to comment on the proceedings, but a counsel in her team who spoke to Channels Television off camera says that with the previous charges, the defendant could have earned 25 years jail term upon conviction. But with the amended charges, the defendant will get life imprisonment if convicted. Counsel to Evans, however, objected to the amended charges being read to the defendant. He tells the judge that he has only just been served a copy of the amendment in court minutes before the sitting, and he would require a short adjournment to enable him confer with his clients, the first and second defendants, on how to proceed. Justice Oshodi is firm. He rules that the lawyers will be given 45 minutes to confer with their clients, after which he stands down the trial.
They have seen the handwriting on the wall that the earlier charge they filed is bound to fail. That's why they have gone ahead to amend the charge.
When the court reconvenes at 11:45 a.m., the charges are read to the 6 defendants, and one after the other, they all pleaded not guilty. It's a defining moment, especially because 3 of the defendants have changed their plea. The DPP swiftly tells the court that the state is ready to proceed with trial and has in fact brought 3 of its witnesses to court. This sparked another round of objections. But in the end, Justice Oshodi acceded to the request for an adjournment to specifically allow the new defense lawyers familiarize themselves with the case. Trial has been fixed for the 3rd of November. Shola Shoyeli, Channels Television News.
More facts are emerging on the seized pump-action rifles illegally imported from Turkey. The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told President Muhammadu Buhari today that the papers used for the importation of the guns to Nigeria are fake and were done outside Turkey. He says his government is already investigating the matter. President Erdogan was reacting to the story of the arms importation to Nigeria from Turkey when he received President Buhari at the presidential palace in Ankara. Our correspondent Ibrahim Adra reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari started his day with a visit to the mausoleum to pay his respect to the founder of Turkey. At the presidential palace, more honor awaits the president, including the traditional 21 gun salute and inspection of guard of honor. Ceremony is over. The 2 men sat down to talk, while delegations on both sides discussed the finer details. Their interests include health, energy, security, trade, and education. The host and his guest appeared before reporters with an assurance that further work will be done.
We are very impressed with the progress of the meeting so far, and we are going to wait for the detailed meetings between the 2 countries. there's a lot of potentialities in terms of investment. Already much is being done on the educational and the health sectors. This will be strengthened, and I assure Mr. President that Nigeria is prepared to accept the Turkish business people to come and exploit more of Nigeria's potentialities.
President Erdogan promised to stand by Nigeria in its fight against terrorism and terrorist organizations like Boko Haram and FETÖ, a group in Turkey he said is responsible for the death of 250 people in his country last year.
His Excellency, Mr. President.
He also says the papers for the importation of shotguns to Nigeria were fraudulent and done outside Turkey, and his government is already investigating.
Was originated from Dubai via Istanbul, so this was in relation to 1,000 rifles and hunting rifles. In both containers, there was fraudulent documentation in the customs declaration, and the fraudulent documents have unfortunately been prepared outside our borders.
The decisions that will come out of discussions here at the Presidential Palace and indeed in the D8 summit could potentially improve the fortunes of Nigeria, especially in the key areas of economy and security. From the Presidential Palace in Ankara, Turkey, Ibrahim Adra for Channels Television News.
Well, Ibrahim is in Istanbul at the moment. He joins us now. Hey, Ibrahim, I guess you're in transit at the moment. Yes, I can see you there in transit. What can you tell us about the preparations that are in top gear for tomorrow?
Well, you're right, Ijoma. I'm just arriving the hotel, and as to be expected, the city is full of life, full of activity. You could sense the excitement in the air that something big is about to happen tomorrow. I don't have a comprehensive itinerary of what would happen tomorrow, but I had a glimpse that indicates that tomorrow there would be what they call a family picture. That's a group picture of the leaders, and then countries will be delivering their statements, nation statements, including Nigeria, of course. And then there would be a handover of chairmanship of the organization. The outgoing is the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who will be handing over to, incidentally, the President of Turkey. Mr. President alluded to that when he congratulated the President of Turkey earlier on when he paid an unscheduled visit to the Grand National Assembly, Ijoma.
All right, do you have any insight into what some of those statements Nigeria will be making and bringing to the table? I know many countries are going to be speaking, but what are we telling the rest of the world as we speak tomorrow? Do you know?
Well, not exactly, Jama, but then if you have been following the Buhari administration closely, and especially the statement that was released by government officials regarding what the government is bringing to this conference, then it's easy to discern that the matters of security, which is of utmost concern to President Muhammadu Buhari, and indeed the economy, would be top on the agenda. I cannot imagine a nation statement from the president to a gathering of this magnitude without the issue of security coming to, the front burner.
All right, thanks a lot, Ibrahim. Stay with it for as long as it takes as the summit does get underway in earnest tomorrow.
Thank you.
And in part two, after the break, more on the D8 summit in Istanbul. I'll be joined by a Doctor of Political Science, Godwin Okeke. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.